Yoon Suk-yeol is a bit of a political outsider in South Korea, and he's been criticised during the campaign for being a bit of a novice. It didn't stop him winning, but my gosh, the biggest task he will have is to try and unify a nation that politically is split down the middle. He didn't even get 49% of the vote. His opponent from the centre-left Democratic Party, Lee Jae-myung, he got just under 48% of the vote, less than a 1% margin between the two. And for that reason, he first of all has to try and get some sort of bipartisan unity going in the country. And this was very much an election that was fought on domestic issues, Bev. Now, things like the economy and housing prices were predominant in the debate. But to give you a bit of an idea, he is from the centre-right, he is from the conservative side of politics, he is a former top prosecutor. In fact, he's got a bit of an interesting history. He was the top prosecutor for the outgoing Moon Jae-in government. Now, that's on the centre-left of South Korean politics. And he actually led the prosecution efforts into the last Conservative President, Park Geun-hye, which was, she was brought down in a corruption scandal about 5 years ago. So to call him a Conservative, it's a bit more of a complex history. But if you look at some of the domestic policies that he's pursuing in this election campaign, one of them, for example, touched on social conservatism. He wants to abolish South Korea's government department for gender equality. And he was trying to woo many young male voters in this campaign who felt that gender equity efforts in South Korea were discriminatory. Yoon Suk-yeol has been somewhat dismissive of complaints that South Korean society does structurally discriminate against women in many ways. So that gives you a bit of an idea of his social conservatism.
And so then how does he plan to unite the country? It was such a close race. And particularly, as you point out, during the campaign, he wasn't doing, there was very little done for the female vote.
Yeah, well, the first thing is South Korea works a little bit like the United States in some ways, in that he will become the president, but you still have a parliament which the centre-left party has a majority in currently and will so for the next 2 years. So it's not as though he'll have a free rein to pursue his agenda. He will face quite a few roadblocks, particularly in the next couple of years. And so that, in a sense, might, in a way, help to modify any particular policies that he was wanting to pursue, and it may kind of heal the divides in South Korean society. But frankly, it was such a bitter campaign between these two candidates. Many South Koreans spoke of the fact that neither of these two blokes were particularly likeable, and there was a very high turnout, but some people were saying that they were casting a ballot not so much because they support their candidate, but rather they don't want to see the other guy win. That gives you an idea of just how bitter and divided it was.
Indeed. Bill, what is it going to mean in terms of the approach to North Korea, which continues to, launch its missiles and pursue its nuclear ambitions?
Well, Yoon Suk-yeol was very critical of the past 5 years of the Moon Jae-in government, which was very much a government trying to have dialogue with North Korea. He believes that sort of approach was too conciliatory. He believes that after 5 years there really isn't much to show for that sort of policy. North Korea is still pretty much in a stalemate. Its nuclear program is an unresolved matter. And so he has said that he will not allow South Korea's entire foreign policy in the region to be dictated by its North Korea policy. What he means by that is he's felt that that sort of approach to Pyongyang has affected South Korea's stance towards China, towards its alliance with the United States. Now, Yoon Suk-yeol has talked about trilateral security, trying to have some sort of military pact or military alliance, or at least some sort of military dialogue involving South Korea, the United States and Japan. Now, the reason this would be tricky, Bev, is because there's a lot of historical baggage between South Korea and Japan. But nonetheless, if he was able to achieve something in that area, he hopes that it would put pressure on North Korea to have this united front. Of course, it would probably also cause foreign policy ripples with China. But Mr. Yoon has already made it clear that he is willing to have a more confrontational approach to Beijing.
That's interesting. Good to talk, Bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you.